Women who the Westerners consider different from themselves are often sexualized. Black women were portrayed as animalistic, while Middle Eastern women were portrayed as sex objects. Middle Eastern women's sexuality was praised, while African women's sexuality was looked at as a spectacle for being different. While both races were othered, one was praised while the other was degraded. In order to explore the different treatments of other in cinema, I am going to focus on Middle Eastern women in Disney's Aladdin, directed by Clements and Musker in 1992, and the performance of Hot Voodoo in Blonde Venus, directed by Sternberg, 1932. Black people were considered in between humans and monkeys. In typecasting, on page 177, Ewan and Ewan quote, "The spectacle of man living in the same cage as an orangutan offered tangible reassurance that the world was in fact inhabited by people of unequal worth. Part of the reason black people were displayed and compared to monkeys was to justify their unfair treatment. In the minds of Westerners, if they can prove that black people were subordinate beings, they could justify slavery and lynchings. One of the prime examples of dehumanization of black women is the Hottentot Venus, Sarta J. Bartman. She was put on display for whites to notice her larger features. Her features were so distinct to a white woman's that it became a spectacle. The comparisons the public made with Sarta J were much closer to an ape than a white woman." In typecasting on page 162, Ewan and Ewan quote, "The Hottentot was produced like a wild beast, in order to move backwards and forwards and come out and go into her cage, more like a bear in a chain than a human being." Black bodies were not only put on display in reality, but were portrayed the same way in cinema. In Blonde Venus, 1932, the black backup dancers are all chained to one another. They have large afros and are walking with an ape-like gait. Trailing behind them is the protagonist of the film, Helen, portrayed by Marlene Dietrich. She is dressed in a gorilla suit, chained to the rest of the dancers. The black dancers are dressed as if they are in an African tribe. They are holding spears and shields and have tribal face paint on. The black dancers have no shoes on, reinforcing their primitiveness. As the scene progresses, the dancers form a circle around the gorilla, thrusting into it with their pelvises and back with their butts. There is jungle-like plants all around the stage, reinforcing the idea of a jungle mise-en-scène. Once they go back onto the stage, the black dancers are shaking their breasts from side to side behind Helen. Helen slowly reveals she is a white woman underneath the costume through a burlesque type of reveal. Blackness is a performance. Even when she takes the head off, she puts an afro wig on, never fully going back to whiteness. Her costume emphasizes her breasts and hips. Helen performs black sexuality, harnessing the aspects of black women that white men find appealing for the performance of Hot Voodoo. What inspired this video essay was a quote in typecasting on page 179 by Ewan and Ewan. They state, "During a decade when the Ku Klux Klan was in its prime and the lynchings of blacks was still common, similar spectacles emphasizing racial inequality flourished. Alongside of this, ironically at a moment when American women had recently acquired the rights of citizenship, hypersexualized Oriental dancers, spiritual daughters of Little Egypt, served as reminders of what was, for many men, a more enticing version of womanhood." So this basically means, well, blacks were being severely mistreated, white women were gaining equality in America, and men found the hypersexualized Oriental women more enticing than the white women that were fighting for their rights. So the Middle Eastern woman sort of acted as an escape for white men. While the othering of black women was often degrading, the othering of Middle Eastern women put them on a pedestal. The Hampshire Feminist Collective states, a part of Orientalism includes exotization against the Orient/other, which also involves seeing women of color as needing to be liberated via hypersexualization. Hypersexualization is often a way that the West tries to liberate the East. The Hampshire Feminist Collective states, the socialization of the exotic other not only gets passed down through certain explicit imperialistic agendas, but also gets transmitted via worldwide entertainment industries like Disney. The most prevalent example of this sexualization of Middle Eastern women is the woman portrayed in Aladdin. Jasmine is dressed in a way that accentuates her breasts and her hips. In the balcony scene, she gets up from leaning on her tiger, stands with her breasts protruding.
I'm rich too, you know.
Yeah,
The daughter of a sultan.
I know.
A fine prize for any prince to marry.
Right. A prince like me.
Warning.
Right. A prince like you.
Her voice is deep and sensual, making Aladdin believe everything she says. Her gait is a slow, sexy walk. She shifts her shoulders, rotating her body with each step. As she walks, he looks her up and down, showing his approval of her sexuality. She is portrayed as a highly sexual object to be looked at. The other women in Aladdin are wearing similar costumes. Their pants look as if they are bikinis on top and their breasts are accentuated. They move with their hips and give many sexual glances. White women will often try and harness the sexualities of Black and Middle Eastern women. White women will wear afros and clothing that accentuates their behinds. White women will also wear black eyeliner, darken their hair, wear big earrings, and even saris. Ultimately, white women try and harness what men find appealing about the other and use it to add to their own sexuality. It is something they can take off and put on without truly knowing what women of these races experience.